The cold wind cut through Captain Hanwoo's thermal suit as he stepped off the transport ship onto the frozen surface of Kythera Prime. Snow crunched under his boots. The sky above was a pale blue, almost white, with two small suns hanging low, on the horizon. This world was nothing like Earth, but it would have to become home for the next 2 years. Hanwoo pulled his scanner from his belt and checked the readings. The air was thin but breathable. Temperature was -20 degrees. Not the worst planet he had worked on, but far from the best. Behind him, 3 other humans climbed down from the ship. They moved slowly in the heavy cold weather gear. "Base. Camp location confirmed," said Jimin, the team pilot. She was young but skilled. Her breath made white clouds as she spoke. "The flat area near those ice formations looks good. No major obstacles for landing future supply ships. Taeho, their engineer, nodded and pointed to a cluster of tall crystal-like structures about half a kilometer away. "Those ice towers will give us wind protection. The geological scans show solid ground underneath. We can build there." Dr. Soo-jin, the team's scientist who studied alien life, was already taking samples of the snow and ice. She worked quickly with her tools. "The mineral content is interesting. These formations are not just frozen water. There are metals mixed in. That explains the strange readings from orbit." Hanwoo watched his team work. They had done this before on other worlds. Find a safe spot, set up base camp, start the long process of making a planet ready for human colonies. It was hard work, but important work. Earth needed new homes for its growing population. The transport ship lifted off behind them, leaving the 4 humans alone on the empty world. It would return in 6 months with more supplies. Until then, they had to survive on their own. They spent the first day setting up their shelter. The base camp was a series of connected domes made from strong plastic materials. Inside, heaters kept them warm. Solar collectors and a small nuclear battery provided power. By evening, they had a working base with sleeping quarters, a laboratory, and a communication center. On the second day, Hanwoo and Taeho went out to explore the area around their camp. The ice formations were even more impressive up close. They stood like frozen trees, some as tall as buildings. The metal content made them shine with different colors when the light hit them right. "Look at this," Taeho said. He was examining one of the smaller formations. The metal veins run through the ice in patterns, almost like they grew that way naturally. Hanwoo took pictures with his camera. "Soo-jin will want to study these. They might tell us about the planet's history." He was about to say more when a sound caught his attention. It was low and deep, like a horn being blown far away. Both men stopped moving and listened. The sound came again, longer this time. It seemed to come from beyond the ice formations, deeper into the frozen landscape. "Animals," Taeho said. "Large ones by the sound of it," Hanwoo nodded. "We should head back, tell the others what we heard." They returned to base camp as the suns were setting. The sky turned orange and red, then quickly became dark. Soo-jin was excited to hear about the ice formations and the animal sounds. "I need to see those formations myself," she said. "And if there are large animals here, we need to know what kind. They could be dangerous." The third day brought their first real discovery. Jimin was doing a flight check on their small hover vehicle when she spotted movement near the ice formations. She called the others over to the observation window. "There," she pointed. "Something big moving between the crystal towers." Hanwoo used binoculars to get a better look. What he saw made him catch his breath. A huge creature, covered in thick, brown fur, was walking slowly between the ice formations. It looked like the ancient mammoths from Earth's history, but much larger. Its tusks were not white ivory, but dark metal that seemed to glow with inner light. "Incredible," Soo-jin whispered. She was looking through her own binoculars. "It's at least 4 meters tall. Those tusks look like they're made of some kind of conductive metal." They watched the creature for over an hour. It moved with surprising grace for something so large. When it touched its tusks to one of the ice formations, small electrical sparks jumped between them. The creature seemed to be feeding on the metal content somehow. "We should call it a mammoth," Taeho suggested. It looks enough like Earth's ancient elephants, Hanwoo agreed. Ice mammoth, then. We'll need to be careful around them. Something that size could be very dangerous if it feels threatened. The next few days passed quietly. They saw more of the ice mammoths in the distance, but kept their distance. The team focused on setting up their equipment and beginning their survey work. Everything seemed to be going well. That changed on their 7th day on Kythera Prime. Hanwoo woke before dawn to the sound of alarms. The base camp security system was going off. Red lights flashed in all the domes. He grabbed his clothes and ran to the control center, where Jimin was already working at the computers. "What is it?" Hanwoo asked. "Breach in Dome 3, Jimin said, her fingers flying over the controls. Something got inside. Dome 3 was their storage area. It held most of their food supplies and equipment. Hanwoo grabbed a stunner weapon from the emergency locker and headed for the connecting tunnel. He could hear sounds coming from Dome 3, not the heavy footsteps of an ice mammoth, but something smaller and faster. There was a crash as something heavy fell over. Hanwoo opened the door carefully and looked inside. Storage boxes were scattered everywhere. Food containers had been torn open. In the middle of the mess was a creature unlike anything he had ever seen. It was about the size of a human child, but clearly not human. Its body was covered in gray fur with black stripes. It had 4 arms, each ending in hands with long, sharp claws. Its head was large with big yellow eyes that glowed in the dim light. When it saw Hanwoo, it made a sound like a cross between a growl and a scream. The creature was fast. It jumped from the floor to the wall to the ceiling in seconds. Its claws dug into the metal surfaces as it moved. Hanwoo barely had time to raise his weapon before it launched itself at him. The stunner beam hit the creature in midair. It fell to the floor, twitching but still conscious. Those yellow eyes stared at Hanwoo with what looked like pure hatred. "Sujin, Tai-ho, get in here," Hanwoo called over his communicator. "We have a situation." When the others arrived, they found Hanwoo standing guard over the strange creature. It was still partially stunned but trying to get up. "What is that thing?" Tai-ho asked. Sujin was already taking pictures and readings with her equipment. "Unknown species. Clearly intelligent, based on how it got past our security. Those claws suggest it's a predator." The creature made another sound, softer this time but still angry. It looked at each human in turn, as if memorizing their faces. "It's just a baby," Jimin said suddenly. "Look at it. The proportions. The size. This is a juvenile of whatever species it belongs to." Hanwoo studied the creature more carefully. Jimin was right. Despite its fierce appearance and sharp claws, there was something young about it. The way it moved, the size of its head compared to its body. "A baby that almost killed me," Hanwoo said. "What do we do with it?" "Standard protocol says we should eliminate any threat to the mission," Tai-ho reminded them, but Hanwoo was already shaking his head. "It's just a child. A scared, hungry child that broke into our food storage." He lowered his weapon. "We're not going to kill it." The creature seemed to sense the change in mood. It stopped trying to get up and just watched. Those yellow eyes were still wary, but the pure hatred was fading. "We'll need to contain it safely," Sujin said. "Study it. Learn about its species. This could be the most important discovery we make on this planet." Hanwoo nodded. "Set up a holding area in Dome 4. Make it comfortable but secure, and get some of those torn food packages. We'll see if it's hungry." As they worked to contain the alien child, Hanwoo couldn't shake the feeling that this encounter would change everything about their mission on Kythera Prime. The creature watched him with those intelligent yellow eyes, and he found himself wondering what it was thinking. He had no way of knowing that this moment of mercy toward a small alien predator would eventually lead him to ride an ice mammoth through a plasma storm to save not just this one creature, but an entire dying species. The alien cub had been in their makeshift holding area for 3 days. Hanwoo sat outside the transparent barrier, watching the small creature pace back and forth. Its yellow eyes never left his face. Every time he moved, the cub would crouch, low, and bare its teeth, Su-jin approached with her daily report. It still won't eat the food we offer, just pushes it away and makes that growling sound. I'm worried it might starve itself. Hanwoo nodded but didn't take his eyes off the creature. What about water? It drinks a little when it thinks we're not watching, but only small amounts. The cub stopped pacing and stared directly at Hanwoo. For a moment, neither human nor alien moved. Then the cub tilted its head slightly as if trying to understand something. I think it's afraid, Hanwoo said quietly. Not just angry, afraid. Of course it's afraid, Taeho said as he joined them. It's trapped in a small space with giant aliens. I'd be terrified too. But Hanwoo shook his head. No. It's more than that. Look at how it watches the door, how it flinches when we make sudden movements. This isn't just fear of us. It's fear of being alone. Su-jin pulled up her scanner readings. The brain activity shows high intelligence, much higher than we first thought, and there are unusual electromagnetic patterns, almost like it's trying to reach out to something. Reach out to what? Taeho asked. Maybe its family, Hanwoo said. He stood up slowly, making sure not to make any quick movements. Su-jin, you said this was a baby. Where are its parents? Over the next few days, Hanwoo began spending more time near the holding area. He would sit quietly and talk in a soft voice. He talked about Earth, about his family, about anything that came to mind. The cub would listen, its head tilted to one side. On the 5th day, something changed. When Hanwoo brought the morning food, the cub didn't back away. Instead, it approached the barrier and placed one clawed hand against the transparent wall. Hanwoo slowly raised his own hand and pressed it against the barrier from his side. Progress, Su-jin whispered from behind him. She was recording everything. What should we call it? Jimin asked. We can't keep saying the creature forever. Hanwoo looked at the small alien. Despite its fierce claws and teeth, there was something gentle about the way it touched the barrier. Kira, he said. We'll call her Kira. The name seemed to have an effect. The cub's ears perked up and it made a soft sound, almost like a purr. By the end of the first week, Kira was eating the food they brought. She still wouldn't let any of them get too close, but she no longer tried to attack the barrier when they approached. Hanwoo noticed that she seemed most calm when he was around. She's bonding with you, Su-jin observed. Many intelligent species form strong emotional connections with those who show them kindness. Or maybe she's planning to eat me when she gets bigger, Taeho joked, but his smile faded when he saw Hanwoo's serious expression. We need to understand what she is, Hanwoo said, where she came from, why she was alone. Su-jin had been working on that question. I've been analyzing the soil samples from where we first saw her tracks. There are traces of a settlement nearby, old but not ancient, maybe abandoned within the last few years. A settlement? Jimin asked. You mean there are more of them? Were, Su-jin corrected. The traces are very faint. Whatever happened there, it happened recently. Hanwoo felt his stomach tighten. Show me. The next morning, Hanwoo and Su-jin went out to investigate the settlement traces. They found them about 2 kilometers from base camp, hidden in a valley, between 2 large ice formations. What they discovered made Hanwoo's heart sink. The remains of crude shelters were scattered across the valley floor. They were made from ice blocks and metal salvaged from crashed ships. Most had been destroyed either by weather or by something else. Among the ruins, Su-jin found bones. Not human bones, she said, examining them carefully. Same species as Kira, but adult size. Multiple individuals. Hanwoo looked around the destroyed settlement. What happened here? Su-jin pointed to scorch marks on some of the ice formations. Energy weapons. This wasn't a natural disaster or weather damage. Someone attacked this place. They searched for over an hour, finding more evidence of violence. Shell casings from military weapons. Pieces of armor that didn't match any human design. Most disturbing of all, they found chains and restraints clearly meant for capturing living beings. Slavers, Hanwoo said grimly. They attacked the settlement and took prisoners. But they missed one, Sujin added, thinking of Kira. When they returned to base camp, Hanwoo went straight to Kira's holding area. The small alien seemed agitated, pacing more than usual. When she saw Hanwoo, she pressed both hands against the barrier and made urgent sounds. "She knows we found something," Sujin said. "The electromagnetic patterns from her brain are much stronger now." Hanwoo sat down in front of the barrier. "I'm sorry, Kira. I'm sorry about your family." The small alien stopped making sounds and just stared at him. Then slowly she sat down on her side of the barrier, mirroring his position. 2 days later, their routine was shattered by an emergency alarm. This time it wasn't a break-in. It was an attack. Hanwoo was in the communications center when the perimeter sensors detected movement, multiple contacts approaching fast from the north. He called the others to the main dome. "What kind of movement?" Jimin asked, checking the sensor displays. "Large. Moving in a pack formation. Definitely not the ice mammoths," Taeho replied. Through the observation windows, they could see shapes moving between the ice formations. They were low to the ground, moving with the fluid grace of natural predators. As they got closer, Hanwoo could make out more details. They looked like wolves, but much larger. Their fur was white with black markings, perfect camouflage for the snowy environment. Their eyes glowed blue in the dim light. There were at least 6 of them, possibly more. "Ice wolves," Sujin breathed. "I've never seen anything like them." The pack surrounded the base camp, moving in coordinated patterns. They were clearly intelligent hunters, cutting off all escape routes before moving in for the attack. "Weapons," Hanwoo ordered. "Full power settings." But as they prepared to defend themselves, something unexpected happened. From Kira's holding area came a sound unlike anything they had heard before. It was loud and piercing, almost like a scream, but with a musical quality that seemed to vibrate through the air itself. The ice wolves stopped moving. Their heads turned toward the sound, ears perked up. One of them, larger than the others, approached the base camp slowly. It sat down just outside the main dome and howled. Kira's response was immediate. She pressed herself against the barrier of her holding area and made the same musical sound again. This time, Hanwoo could feel it in his bones. "She's talking to them," Sujin whispered. The conversation between Kira and the wolf pack leader continued for several minutes. The sounds were complex, clearly carrying meaning that the humans couldn't understand. Finally, the large wolf stood up and walked away. The rest of the pack followed. Hanwoo watched them disappear into the ice formations. What just happened? Sujin was already analyzing her recordings. Communication. Definitely communication. The electromagnetic patterns from Kira's brain spiked during the exchange. I think she was negotiating. Negotiating what? Taeho asked. Their answer came the next morning. Hanwoo woke to find Jimin calling everyone to the observation dome. Outside, the ice wolves had returned, but this time they weren't alone. 3 adult members of Kira's species stood with the wolf pack. They were taller than Kira, with longer limbs and more developed features, but clearly the same people. One of them stepped forward and placed a hand on the dome wall. From inside her holding area, Kira made excited sounds. She was pressing against the barrier, reaching toward the adult aliens outside. "Her family," Jimin said softly. "They found her," but Hanwoo noticed something else. The adult aliens were looking at him specifically. Their large eyes held intelligence and something else. Recognition. They know I helped her, he realized. Somehow they know. The largest of the adult aliens approached the dome entrance. It made a series of sounds, some similar to what Kira had been making, others completely different. The meaning was clear even without translation. They wanted to talk. Hanwoo looked at his team. Open the barrier to Kira's area. Let her go to them. "Are you sure?" Taeho asked. "What if this is a trick?" "It's not a trick," Hanwoo said. He was watching Kira's excited movements, the way she reached toward her people. She's been alone and afraid. She needs to be with her own kind. They opened the barrier. Kira raced out and threw herself into the arms of the waiting adults. The reunion was clearly emotional, with soft sounds and gentle touching between them. All. But after the first moments of joy, the adult aliens turned back to Hanwoo. The largest one approached him slowly, hands open and empty. When it reached him, it did something unexpected. It placed one clawed hand gently on Hanwoo's shoulder and made a sound that was unmistakably grateful. "I think," Sujin said quietly, "this is just the beginning." Hanwoo nodded, looking at Kira safe in her family's arms. He had chosen to show mercy to a small, frightened creature. Now he was about to learn that this simple act of kindness would lead to consequences he could never have imagined. The adult aliens had been at the base camp for 3 days. Hanwoo learned that the largest one was called Morkai, and he seemed to be some kind of leader. Through a combination of gestures, simple drawings, and Kira's help, they were slowly building a way to communicate. Sujin was fascinated by their telepathic abilities. "They're not reading our minds," she explained to the team. "It's more like they can sense emotions and basic intentions. That's how they knew you helped Kira." Hanwoo watched as Kira played with 2 younger aliens who had come with Morkai. Despite everything she had been through, she was still just a child. "How many of them are left?" he asked. Morkai seemed to understand the question. He held up his 4-fingered hand several times, then made a gesture that clearly meant few or not many. "Less than 100, Sujin interpreted. "Maybe much. Less." The next day brought terrible news. Jimin was monitoring their long-range communications when she picked up a signal. It was faint and broken, but clearly a distress call. "It's not from any human ship," she told Hanwoo. "The signal pattern is completely different." When they played the recording for Morkai and the others, the reaction was immediate. The adult aliens became agitated, making urgent sounds to each other. Kira pressed close to Hanwoo, her yellow eyes wide with fear. "What is it?" Hanwoo asked, though he suspected he already knew. Through careful communication, the truth came out. The signal was from Morthen, an elder of their people. He had been captured by the same slavers who had attacked their settlement. The message was a desperate plea for help, transmitted from somewhere beyond the Crimson Wastes. Sujin pulled up the planetary maps on their computer. The Crimson Wastes were marked in red as a dangerous zone. "Constant plasma storms," she read from their survey data. "Electromagnetic interference makes all technology useless in that region. No ship can fly through it safely." Morkai pointed to the map and made sounds that were clearly frustrated. His people had no way to reach their captured elder. "How long can he survive?" Hanwoo asked. The answer, when it came through gestures and Kira's emotional reactions, was clear. Not long. The slavers were taking their prisoners off-world soon. Once they left the planet, Morthen would be lost forever. That night, Hanwoo couldn't sleep. He stood at the observation window, looking out at the ice formations. In the distance, he could see the electrical glow of the Crimson Wastes on the horizon. The plasma storms lit up the sky with colors that had no names. "Thinking about the impossible?" Jimin asked, joining him at the window. "Maybe," Hanwoo admitted. "There has to be a way. The plasma storms disable all electronics," Jimin reminded him. "Our ship, our hover vehicles. Even our communicators won't work in there. And the electromagnetic radiation would kill most life forms in hours." Hanwoo nodded, but something was bothering him. Most life forms, but not all. The next morning, he went out to observe the ice mammoths again. There was a large herd of them grazing near the metal-rich ice formations about a kilometer from camp. He watched as they used their metallic tusks to conduct electricity from the ice into their bodies. "Sujin," he called over his communicator. "Come out here, bring your scanners." When the scientist arrived, Hanwoo pointed to the mammoths. "Test them, see how they react to electromagnetic fields." Sujin ran her equipment over the nearest mammoth from a safe distance. The readings made her eyes widen. Incredible. Their tusks aren't just conductive, they're actually designed to handle massive electrical charges, and their hide has metallic fibers running through it. "Like natural electromagnetic shielding," Hanwoo said. "Exactly. These creatures could probably walk through a plasma storm without being affected. Hanwoo stared at the largest mammoth in the herd. It was a massive bull, easily 5 meters tall with tusks that crackled with electrical energy. Could one of them carry a rider? Sujin looked at him with alarm. Hanwoo, you can't be serious. But Hanwoo was already thinking through the possibilities. The storms follow predictable patterns, right? If someone could ride a mammoth through the Crimson Wastes, they might be able to reach the slaver base. Even if a mammoth could survive the journey, how would you control it? How would you even get close enough to climb on one? That evening, Hanwoo presented his idea to the team and to Morkai's group. The reaction was immediate and negative. It's suicide, Taeho said flatly. Those mammoths are wild animals. They could crush you without even noticing. The plasma storms would cook you alive even with the mammoth's protection, Jimin added. But Morkai was listening carefully. When Hanwoo finished explaining his plan, the alien leader was quiet for a long time. Then he turned to Kira and made a series of sounds. Kira approached Hanwoo and placed her small hand on his arm. When she looked up at him, her yellow eyes were serious, beyond her years. She wants to help, Sujin translated based on the emotional patterns she was reading. She says she can talk to the mammoth for you. Talk to it? Hanwoo asked. Morkai gestured to his head, then to the mammoths in the distance. The meaning was clear. The Velthari could communicate telepathically with other species, not just their own kind. If Kira can establish a connection with one of the mammoths, it might be possible to ride it, Sujin said slowly. But the dangers are still enormous. Over the next few days, they developed the plan. Taeho worked on creating equipment that could function in the electromagnetic chaos of the plasma storms. He used basic mechanical principles, steam power, and clockwork mechanisms that wouldn't be affected by the electrical interference. Primitive but functional, he explained, showing Hanwoo a steam-powered communicator. It won't have the range of our regular equipment, but it should work inside the storms. Sujin developed a protective suit using materials from mammoth hide that Morkai's people had collected over the years. The alien fur and metallic fibers were woven together with human technology to create something that might protect a rider from the worst of the plasma storms. It's not perfect, she warned. You'll still be exposed to dangerous levels of radiation, and if the mammoth throws you off, I understand the risks, Hanwoo said. The hardest part was approaching the mammoths. Hanwoo and Kira spent hours each day sitting near the herd, letting the massive creatures get used to their presence. Kira would make soft telepathic contact with them, sharing feelings of peace and friendship. The breakthrough came when the largest bull, the one Hanwoo had been watching, approached them voluntarily. It lowered its massive head and allowed Kira to touch its trunk-like nose. His name is Thunder. Kira managed to communicate through gestures and emotions. He says he remembers the old days when your people and mine worked together. Hanwoo was confused. Old days. Humans have never been on this planet before. But Morkai shook his head and pointed to some of the ancient ice formations. Hidden among them were structures that Hanwoo had assumed were natural. Looking closer, he could see they were too regular, too purposeful to be accidents of nature. There, were humans here before? Sujin breathed. Long ago. They must have worked with the Velthari. This revelation changed everything. If humans and Velthari had been allies in the past, it explained why Thunder and the other mammoths were willing to trust them now. Some deep genetic memory told them that humans were friends, not enemies. Training with Thunder took another week. The mammoth was patient with Hanwoo's clumsy attempts to ride. Kira served as translator, helping both species understand each other. Gradually, Hanwoo learned to work with Thunder's natural movements instead of fighting them. The plasma storms will be starting their peak cycle in 5 days, Jimin reported. If you're going to do this, that's your window. After that, the storms will be too intense even for Thunder. Hanwoo looked at his team, at Morkai's people, and at little Kira, who had started this whole adventure by breaking into their food storage. We have 5 days to finalize everything. Taeho finished the last of the mechanical equipment. Sujin completed the protective suit, and tested it against simulated plasma conditions. Jimin calculated the best route through the storm, patterns to reach the slaver base. On the night before departure, Earth Command finally responded to their reports. The message was clear and direct. Abort the rescue mission immediately. It was too dangerous and not part of their terraforming mandate. Hanwoo listened to the message, then deleted it without responding. "Are you sure about this?" Jimin asked. "Command is right. This isn't our mission." Hanwoo looked out at Thunder, who was waiting patiently near the base camp. The massive Mammoth had accepted him as a riding partner, trusted him enough to carry him into danger. "Maybe it wasn't our original mission," Hanwoo said, "but it's our mission now." Kira came over and took his hand. Through their growing bond, he could feel her gratitude and her fear. She knew the dangers he was facing, but she also knew it was the only chance to save her grandfather. "Some things are more important than following orders," Hanwoo said quietly. "Some things are about doing what's right." The next morning, he would climb onto Thunder's back and ride into a plasma storm that could kill them both. It was impossible by any reasonable measure. But as Hanwoo had learned since meeting Kira, sometimes the impossible was the only option that mattered. Hanwoo climbed onto Thunder's back as the first plasma storm began to form on the horizon. The massive Mammoth stood perfectly still, allowing his human rider to secure the mechanical equipment to his thick harness. Kira sat behind Hanwoo, her small hands gripping his protective suit. "Remember," Sujin called from the base camp, "the storms move in 3-day cycles. You have to reach the slaver compound and get back before the pattern shifts." Hanwoo nodded and activated his steam-powered communicator. "Testing. Can you hear me?" Jimin's voice crackled through the primitive device. "Signal is weak but clear. Good luck." Thunder trumpeted once, a sound that echoed across the frozen landscape. Then he began walking toward the crimson wastes. Each step was careful and deliberate, his metallic tusks already beginning to glow as they picked up electrical charges from the air. The first hour of travel was deceptively calm. The ground beneath Thunder's feet was solid, and the plasma activity was still building in the distance. Hanwoo used the time to adjust to riding the giant creature. Thunder's gait was smooth but powerful, each step covering several meters. Kira pressed close against Hanwoo's back, her telepathic abilities helping her translate Thunder's thoughts and intentions. "He says the real storm starts soon," she communicated through gestures and emotions. As if summoned by her words, the sky ahead began to change. What had been distant flashes of light became a wall of electrical energy stretching from the ground to the clouds. Purple and green lightning danced between towering columns of superheated plasma. "Hold on," Hanwoo warned Kira, though he knew she was already gripping him tightly. Thunder approached the edge of the storm zone without hesitation. The moment they crossed the boundary, Hanwoo's world exploded into chaos. Lightning struck Thunder's tusks constantly, but instead of harming the Mammoth, the electrical energy seemed to energize him. His metallic fur crackled with captured electricity, creating a protective field around his riders. The temperature fluctuated wildly, from freezing cold to burning heat within seconds. Hanwoo's protective suit worked better than he had hoped. The mammoth hide and metallic fibers woven into the fabric conducted the electrical energy away from his body. But the suit couldn't protect him from everything. The electromagnetic chaos made his head pound, and his vision blurred from the constant, flashing lights. Thunder navigated the storm with instincts that Hanwoo couldn't understand. The mammoth seemed to sense where the next lightning strike would occur, always moving to use the electrical discharge to his advantage rather than fighting against it. By the end of the first day, they had made good progress into the crimson wastes. Hanwoo's mechanical compass, powered by clockwork rather than electronics, showed they were heading in the right direction. But the constant stress of the storm was taking its toll on all of them. During a brief lull in the plasma activity, they stopped to rest beside a formation of metallic rocks. Thunder used his tusks to tap into the natural electrical field, recharging himself. Hanwoo shared some of his emergency food with Kira, though neither of them had much appetite. "How much farther?" he asked her. Kira closed her eyes and reached out with her telepathic senses. After a moment, she pointed toward a distant glow that looked different from the plasma storms. Grandfather is there. He is weak, but alive. The second day brought new challenges. The plasma storms intensified, creating electrical tornadoes that could vaporize anything caught in their path. Thunder had to constantly change direction to avoid the worst of the energy spirals. Hanwoo's steam communicator crackled to life during a brief moment of calm. "Hanwoo, can you hear me?" It was Jimin's voice, very faint. "I'm here," he replied. "About halfway to target. Hurry. The storm patterns are shifting faster than we predicted. You may have less time than we thought." The signal faded into static before Hanwoo could respond. He urged Thunder forward, knowing they couldn't afford any more delays. It was during the afternoon of the second day that they encountered other travelers. Hanwoo first noticed them as shapes moving through the plasma storm ahead. As they got closer, he could see it was a group of alien beings struggling to make progress through the electrical chaos. Their vehicle, some kind of hovercraft, was badly damaged and barely functioning. The aliens themselves looked exhausted and desperate. One of them collapsed as Hanwoo watched. "We should help them," Kira said, sensing Hanwoo's thoughts. Hanwoo knew it would cost them precious time. Every minute of delay made their mission more dangerous. But as he looked at the struggling aliens, he knew he couldn't just leave them to die. "Thunder, take us to them," he commanded. The Mammoth approached the stranded group carefully. The aliens looked up in amazement as the massive creature emerged from the plasma storm like something from a legend. They were a species Hanwoo had never seen before, with silver skin and large black eyes adapted for low light. Through gestures and Kira's limited telepathic contact, Hanwoo learned their story. They were merchants whose ship had been caught in an unexpected storm surge. Their hovercraft was dying, and without help, they would all perish in the plasma chaos. Hanwoo made a quick decision. "Can Thunder carry extra passengers?" he asked. Kira. The little Velthari communicated with the Mammoth. "He says yes, but not all the way. There is a safe place not far from here." It took 2 hours to guide the stranded aliens to a cave system that offered protection from the worst of the storm. The delay meant Hanwoo and Kira would barely have enough time to reach the slaver compound and return before the storm patterns shifted. "Why did you help us?" one of the aliens asked through hand signals as they prepared to part ways. Hanwoo thought about the question. "Because it was the right thing to do." The alien stared at him for a long moment, then made a gesture that was clearly one of respect and gratitude. As Thunder carried them away from the cave, Kira squeezed Hanwoo's arm. Through their bond, he could feel her approval of his choice. Even in a universe that often seemed cruel and indifferent, kindness still mattered. The third day brought them within sight of their goal. The slaver compound sat in a valley between two plasma-scarred hills. It was larger than Hanwoo had expected, with multiple buildings surrounded by energy barriers and guard towers. Through his mechanical binoculars, Hanwoo could see movement. In the compound, guards patrolled the perimeter and there were several ships parked near the main building. One of them was clearly preparing for departure. "We're almost out of time," he told Kira. "They're getting ready to leave with the prisoners." Kira pointed to a smaller building near the back of the compound. "Grandfather is there. I can feel him." Hanwoo studied the layout carefully. The compound's defenses were designed to stop ships and vehicles, not someone approaching on foot through a plasma storm. Most of the guards were focused on the sky and the main approaches. The plasma storm is our advantage, he realized. They won't expect anyone to attack during the storm. Thunder approached the compound's outer perimeter as lightning crashed around them. The electrical chaos provided perfect cover, making it impossible for the guards' sensors to detect their approach. Hanwoo activated his steam-powered equipment and checked his primitive weapons. Everything had to work perfectly. There would be no second chances. "Are you ready?" he asked Kira. The small alien nodded, her yellow eyes bright with determination. "Let's bring Grandfather home." Thunder trumpeted once, a sound that was lost in the roar of the plasma storm. Then the massive Mammoth charged toward the slaver compound, carrying two unlikely heroes into the heart of enemy territory. Hanwoo gripped his weapons and prepared for the fight of his life. Behind him, Kira reached out with her telepathic abilities, searching for her grandfather among the prisoners. Ahead of them, the slaver compound grew larger with each of Thunder's thunderous steps. The rescue was about to begin. Thunder crashed through the outer fence of the slaver compound like it was made of paper. The electrical barrier that should have stopped any intruder simply fed more power into the mammoth's tusks. Hanwoo held on tight as Thunder trumpeted, a battle cry that echoed across the valley. The guards were completely unprepared for an attack during a plasma storm. Their electronic weapons and sensors were useless in the electromagnetic chaos. Some tried to fire energy weapons, but the beams went wild in the electrical interference. Hanwoo slid down from Thunder's back and activated his mechanical weapons. The steam-powered crossbow worked perfectly, sending metal bolts through the storm-confused air. 2 guards fell before the others even realized they were under attack. Kira jumped down beside him, her telepathic abilities reaching out to find her grandfather. "This way," she called, pointing toward the smaller building she had identified earlier. Thunder charged toward the main compound, drawing the attention of most of the guards. His massive bulk and electrical aura made him look like a creature from legend. The slavers had never seen anything like him. Hanwoo and Kira ran toward the prison building while Thunder created chaos behind them. The door was locked with an electronic system that had failed in the plasma storm. Hanwoo used his mechanical tools to break it open. Inside, they found horror. Dozens of alien beings were chained in small cells. Most were Velthari like Kira, but there were other species too. All looked weak and frightened. Many were just children. "Grandfather," Kira called out telepathically. From the back of the building came a weak response. They found Morthen in the last cell, barely conscious but alive. The old Velthari looked up at Hanwoo with surprise and confusion. "Human," he whispered in his own language. "Impossible." Kira ran to him and pressed her hands against the bars. Through their telepathic link, she quickly explained what had happened. Morthen's eyes widened as he learned about Hanwoo's journey through the plasma storm. "The keys," Hanwoo said, looking around the prison. He found them hanging on a hook near the entrance, dropped by a guard who had run outside to fight Thunder. As Hanwoo opened the cells, the freed prisoners gathered around them. Most were too weak to walk far, but their eyes showed hope for the first time in months. The Velthari children pressed close to Kira and Morthen, seeking comfort from their own kind. "Can you help them walk?" Hanwoo asked Kira, gesturing to the weakest prisoners. Kira nodded and began using her telepathic abilities to give strength and encouragement to the others. It was exhausting work, but she pushed herself beyond her limits. Outside, the sound of battle was getting closer. Hanwoo knew they had limited time before the slavers regrouped and mounted a proper counterattack. "Thunder," he called through his steam communicator. "We need extraction." The Mammoth's response was immediate. He crashed through the wall of the prison building, creating a hole large enough for everyone to escape through. Several guards followed. But Thunder's tusks crackled with electricity, keeping them at bay. "Everyone onto Thunder," Hanwoo ordered. Quickly, getting 30 weak prisoners onto a Mammoth's back seemed impossible, but desperation gave them strength. The adult Velthari helped lift the children. Other species worked together, despite never having met before. Hanwoo boosted the smallest ones up while Kira used her telepathy to keep everyone calm. Morthen was the last to climb up. The old Velthari looked at Hanwoo with deep respect. "You came for us," he said in broken human words. "Why?" Hanwoo thought of Kira's frightened face when he first found her in their storage room. "Because someone had to." Thunder began moving toward the compound's exit, carrying his enormous load of rescued prisoners. Behind them, the slavers were finally organizing a pursuit. Several armed vehicles began following them, their drivers struggling to navigate in the plasma storm. The first part of the escape went smoothly. Thunder's natural electrical resistance protected everyone on his back from the worst of the storm, while the pursuing vehicles had trouble with their failing electronics. But Hanwoo knew the real challenge was still ahead. The plasma storm was reaching its peak intensity. Lightning strikes were becoming more frequent and more powerful. Even Thunder was starting to show signs of strain as he carried so many passengers through the electrical chaos. The storm patterns are shifting, Kira warned, sensing changes in the electromagnetic field around them. We have to move faster. But faster meant more risk. Thunder began taking more direct routes through the storm, paths that would have been certain death for any normal creature. The rescued prisoners held on desperately as the Mammoth leaped over electrical tornadoes and charged through walls of superheated plasma. One of the pursuing vehicles got too close to a plasma column and exploded in a shower of sparks. The others fell back, unwilling to follow Thunder into the most dangerous parts of the storm. By the second day of their return journey, everyone was exhausted. The constant electrical bombardment was wearing down even Thunder's incredible resistance. Several of the weaker prisoners had collapsed, supported only by the others around them. It was then that help arrived from an unexpected source. The alien merchants Han Wu had rescued on his way to the compound appeared through the storm, riding on creatures similar to Thunder but smaller. They had followed Han Wu's path and now offered their assistance. "You helped us," their leader communicated through gestures. "Now we help you." The merchants took some of the weakest prisoners onto their own mounts, reducing Thunder's load. They also shared food and medicine they had in their packs. The kindness Han Wu had shown them was being repaid when he needed it most. With the extra help, they made better time. Thunder seemed refreshed by the reduced weight, and his steps became more confident. The plasma storm was beginning to weaken as they reached its outer edges. On the morning of the third day, Han Wu saw the most beautiful sight of his life. The ice formations around their base camp appeared through the dissipating storm. Thunder trumpeted in triumph as they approached the human settlement. Jimin, Sujin, and Taiho were waiting for them with medical supplies and warm food. The reunion was emotional, with tears and embraces all around. The rescued prisoners looked around in wonder at their new safe haven. But the most important moment came when Morthen approached Han Wu privately. The old Velthari elder looked deeply into the human's eyes and spoke in careful, measured words. "You have saved not just our lives but our future," he said. "The children you rescued are the next generation of our people. Without them, we would have died out completely." Morthen then did something that had never been done in Velthari history. He performed a ceremony that made Han Wu an honorary member of their species, with all the rights and responsibilities that came with it. "You rode a mammoth into a plasma storm to save an alien child who once tried to kill you," Morthen continued. "This is not just courage. This is the kind of compassion that builds bridges between worlds." Over the following weeks, the base camp transformed into something new. It was no longer just a human terraforming station. It became the first interspecies colony on Kythera Prime, where humans and Velthari worked together to build a better future. Kira, now fully grown, chose to stay with Han Wu as both friend and ambassador. Thunder remained nearby too, becoming the first of many mammoth partners for humans exploring the planet. The story of Han Wu's rescue mission spread throughout the galaxy. Other species heard about the human who risked everything to save aliens he barely knew. Requests for help began arriving from worlds where compassion was desperately needed. As Han Wu stood watching Velthari children play safely in the snow, Kira approached him. She had learned to speak human words now, though she still preferred telepathic communication. "Thank you," she said simply, "for everything." Han Wu smiled and put his hand on her shoulder. "Thank you for trusting me, even after everything that happened when we first met." In the distance, Thunder grazed peacefully among the ice formations, his tusks glowing softly in the light of Kythera Prime's twin suns. The mammoth had carried them all through the storm and brought them safely home. And sometimes, Han Wu reflected, that was all the universe really needed. Someone willing to ride into the storm to help those who couldn't help themselves.